Everyone knows that Kinger is a crazy old man who doesn't feel anything except fear and paranoia.
My impenetrable fortress!
You want to come with us to check on Kaufmo?
No, not really. I think Kaufmo's gone insane. Last time I spoke with him, he was rambling endlessly about some exit. Kinda like you, Pomni. You might be going insane too. And this is some rather inconvenient darkness.
What was that? Was that you?
No. Oh, wait, you mean me grabbing you right now? Yeah, that was me. Is this your hand?
That's my eye.
Yes, but which eye?
I really don't think that Will you stop touching my eye?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
What happened?
I just remembered a really funny joke.
Why did you scream then?
Maybe it wasn't actually that funny.
Oh my god.
We've all had a good laugh at Kinger's weird behavior, but not many people realized that he wasn't always like this. Long before the pilot episode, he was a pretty chill guy who went through something terrifying. But we'll get to that later. When the trio set out to find Kaufmo, most of them noticed a room that had a really strange character who looked a lot like Kinger. Almost a year ago, theories started popping up that it could be his wife, Queenie. But since her portrait on the door was crossed out, it became pretty clear that she shared Kaufmo's fate. Looking at everything Kinger did up until one of the last scenes of the third episode, it was hard to believe he'd ever snap out of it. But in a conversation with Pomni, we finally figured out what pushed him over the edge into total madness. And trust me, that's just the tip of the iceberg of what we learned about Kinger in episode 3.
It was my fault we went down this path, wasn't it? I'm really sorry for that.
Why have you been acting so different lately?
I have, haven't I? I'm normally not too good with memories. But being surrounded by darkness always brings me back to a certain time. Right after my wife had abstracted. I don't recall the exact string of events, but we both ended up in the fort together. And it was dark. The darkness seemed to calm her down a bit. The harsh, jagged edges smoothed out, and she didn't seem aggravated anymore. She wasn't the same as before, but she was calm enough to touch one last time before she got sent to the cellar. I'm always taken back to that moment when engulfed in darkness.
You had a wife? Like, here in the circus?
Yeah. She was funny, creative, really into entomology. I used to hate bugs, but she somehow got me to like them. It's not the most cheerful memory, but it's one I at least have control over. I know how I can feel in this circus. Sometimes it all just feels pointless.
Yeah.
But it's not. Not if you have people who care about you. Good memories can do a lot. Hold on to them. And cherish the people around you. You never know when they'll be gone. In this world, the worst thing you can do is make someone think they're not wanted or loved.
I'm glad you're here with me.
That's how we officially found out that Kinger really did have a wife, and he genuinely loved and respected her. We also got to hear some wise words from the now older Kinger, which will probably stick with Pomni. It also became clear why he's always building those strange pillow forts. It's a habit he developed after his wife's death, and only inside them does he feel safe. I couldn't help but think that Kinger doesn't really want things to change anymore. He probably prefers staying in the digital circus, where everything is familiar and makes sense to him. Returning to the real world in his current state would be a huge mistake, but did Kinger become this way only after Queenie's death? Or were there already signs of his madness before that tragic moment? Gooseworx officially told us that the third episode is focused on two characters, Zubul and Kinger, and it would be strange to sum up Kinger's story in a 2-minute conversation. In reality, Goose hit a huge clue for us that directly ties into Kinger, those tapes from Baron Mildenhall that Kinger kept playing and listening to very closely.
Tuesday, December 4th. Although I had shot the creature multiple times in its vitals, and severed its head to keep as a prize on my wall. My troubles were just beginning. I took my eyes off the body for what felt like only a minute. And when I looked back, the body was gone. The creature was not dead, and it would be back to reclaim what I'd taken from it. If anyone is listening to this, all I ask of you is one thing. Do not let the head out of your sight. You have been warned.
Wow.
Isn't it strange that Kinger was the one listening to those tapes, and in the end, we were shown Queenie as an abstracted monster? What if the story of the Baron is actually a reflection of Kinger's life in the digital circus long before the pilot episode, particularly his relationship with his wife? In the Baron's story, he talks about an angel, but in the digital circus that couldn't exist. So it's likely that the creature is a stand-in for the monster everyone turns into when they lose their mind. This is also confirmed by the fact that when Kinger encountered the angel, he froze and said those words.
You look beautiful, honey.
Most likely in the angel's mouth, he saw his wife, which further convinces us that the theory of the abstracted monster being a reference to the angel is absolutely true. Going back to the flashback scene, we see even more proof of my theory being right. Each character always sees the abstracted monster for the first time, and Kinger was no exception. He probably thought the digital circus was a happy place at first, until that initial encounter with the monster, which started all his problems. In his tale, the Baron mentions taking the head of the angel, and that was the source of his troubles. As we remember from the pilot episode, the abstracted monsters are extremely aggressive, and their main goal is to destroy the other residents. What if Kinger saved his wife by pulling her from the monster's grasp, but in doing so, became its victim instead? Now we know that Cain managed to save him, but Kinger's entire world started crumbling right before his eyes. While Ragatha is always friendly and upbeat, and could easily handle her encounter with Kaufmo, Kinger might have started losing his mind after a similar experience, and that was the beginning of his downfall. Something the Baron of that dreadful manor will reveal to us as well.
Things have gotten far worse than I could ever have imagined. My paranoia had driven me to the point where I was no longer the protector my wife and theoretical children needed. Jumping at every shadow, every noise, I ended up shooting the love of my life, mistaking her for the creature. It's ironic, isn't it? In my attempts to protect her, I ended up becoming the monster myself. Now I wait down in my cellar, no longer having anything to protect but my own soul. If nothing else, I will slay the beast that took everything from me.
We've all seen how well Kinger can shoot.
Problem this way too!
Just leave it to me. I can handle this. Well, that wasn't so bad.
I think such a high skill level doesn't just happen overnight, so he must have known how to do this long before. In his story, the Baron mentions that he went so crazy that he started fearing every little sound and noise. Doesn't that remind you of someone? This fear eventually took over his mind and control to the point where he couldn't handle his emotions and confused his wife with the angel. It's also likely that, long before the pilot episode, using weapons was allowed in the digital circus since we saw them in both the second and third episodes. But after Kinger misused a weapon, Cain permanently removed it from the digital circus tent. Also, notice how carefully Kinger handled the shotgun when something terrible possessed Pomni. Instead of shooting, he started hitting the creature. This suggests that Kinger subconsciously remembers that moment with his wife, making him more cautious with the weapon. But you might say, in the digital circus, you can't die. And I agree with you. But imagine if your husband or wife were shooting at you, accompanied by intense paranoia. After going through that, Queenie couldn't keep her sanity and slowly started distancing herself from everyone, especially Kinger. Eventually, this led to her becoming that very abstracted monster. And now we understand why Kinger behaves so strangely 90% of the time. He just hasn't been able to cope with the trauma he caused himself and his loved one. It would actually be an epic conclusion to this drama if he went through some therapy with Cain, just like Zubul did. If they could dive deep into the issue and explain to Kinger why he shouldn't blame himself, we might finally see a more rational Kinger, one who's wise and can genuinely help others on their new adventures. I really hope that happens, because it's been nice to watch the calm old man. What do you think about this theory? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and see you soon in new videos where something truly crazy awaits.